In Unit 5, we worked quite a bit with parallel lines. So the symbol for parallel lines are these two lines that are parallel to each other, just like the two L's in parallel are parallel to each other. And parallel lines have the same slope, they're the same distance apart forever and ever, and they never intersect. Perpendicular lines, the symbol is like this, they come together at a 90-degree angle, and their slopes are not the same. In fact, they're a special kind of relationship. They have the opposite sides and they're reciprocals. So two things are different about the slopes of perpendicular lines. Their slopes will have opposite signs, and there's something called reciprocals. Because we need to know about reciprocals, that's actually what we're going to work on right here briefly. And what is a reciprocal, you might ask? And a reciprocal are two numbers that when you multiply them together, they equal 1. So here are some examples. So 2 times 1/2 would equal 1. So if it helps, you could express 2 as 2 over 1. And if you look at these two numbers, when you multiply them, 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 2 is 2, and that would simplify as 1. So 2 and 1/2 are reciprocals. Let's try one with a negative. So if you express negative 4 as negative 4 over 1, we need to multiply by something that will equal 1. So basically, we need to have a 4 down here, and we need a 1 up here, so that these two things will be the same, and these two things will be the same. And then we need one of these numbers to be negative. So I'm going to put the 4 as negative. So if you multiply these together, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 over 4 equals 1. So negative 4 and negative 1/4 are reciprocals. Similarly with negative 3/7, we know we need the, oops, I don't want an equal there, I want a multiply symbol. We want a negative times a negative because we need it to equal positive 1. So we need a negative, and then we need the numerator and the denominator to simplify with this numerator and denominator to equal 1. And what will do that is 7 over 3. All right? So you may be seeing a pattern that it's just the number flipped upside down. So if you write it as a fraction and then you flip it, that's going to equal 1 when you multiply. Right? If you look at that pattern, you can use that pattern to figure out the reciprocal of expressions that are variables. It's the same thing. We need these two numbers to equal 1 when we multiply. RS over RS is going to equal 1. And now remember, because of number properties, remember that you can multiply or add in any order. So even though this says R times S, and this says S times R, because it's multiplication, you could use the commutative property to rewrite it in a different order. And now it's even easier to see that those two things equal 1 when they're multiplied. Same with this one. We need it to be a negative because we need our product to be 1 positive one. So we need to multiply by a negative, and then we need n over m. Then we'll have m times n over m times n, which equals 1. So now that you know that, and you've had a little bit of practice, you're ready to practice on your own on page 237 of your textbook. Determine the reciprocal of each value. So decide what number you would multiply times 3 to get 1, times 1/5 to get 1, times negative c to get 1, and then the same with these. You determine what are the reciprocals for each of these values.